There are people in your life who love you so quietly you almost miss it. They don't make speeches. They don't ask for credit. They just show up every time, in the small and necessary ways. They mow the lawn. They fill your glass. They drive you somewhere at 2 a.m. and never mention it again. This is a story about a daughter who spent years wanting her father to be different, and the week she finally understood that he had been extraordinary all along. This is The Man Who Mowed the Lawn, a story about fathers, humility, and the love that never announces itself. The neighbors never knew his name. That was the thing about Raymond Osei. He had lived on Caldwell Street for 22 years, and most of the people on that street knew him only as the quiet man in the corner house, the one with a neat garden, the one who waved but didn't linger, the one whose porch light was always on. His daughter, Abina, knew everything about him and still felt, at 31, that she was only beginning to understand him. She had driven down from the city on the Friday evening in late September, the kind of evening where the light turns gold before it gives up entirely. She had a bag in the boot of her car, a week off work she hadn't planned for, and a feeling she couldn't name sitting quietly in her chest the whole drive down. Her mother had called 3 days earlier. "Your father won't go to the doctor," she'd said, not for the first time. "But he's tired, Abina, the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. Talk to him. He listens to you." Abina wasn't sure that was true anymore. She wasn't sure of much about her father, except that he was there, had always been there, in the background of her life, like a steady, unassuming structure. She had stopped noticing the way you stop noticing the walls of a house you grew up in. She pulled into the driveway and sat in the car for a moment. The lawn was freshly mowed. Of course it was. Raymond Osei had come to this country 35 years ago with a single suitcase, a degree in civil engineering that took him 4 more years to have recognized, and a wife named Grace, who was braver than he was, though he never said so out loud. He had worked as a courier while the paperwork moved slowly through the system, then as a site labourer, then eventually as the engineer he had trained to be. A quiet, methodical man who understood load-bearing structures and the importance of foundations that nobody saw. He had never talked about the hard years, not to Abina, not to her younger brother Kofi. He had simply moved through them and come out the other side and built a life that looked, from the outside, entirely ordinary. Abina had spent most of her 20s resenting the ordinariness. She had wanted, when she was younger, a father who was expressive, who talked about his feelings, his journey, the weight of what he'd carried. Her friends' fathers told stories. Raymond Osei mowed the lawn. He fixed things. He sat in his chair after dinner and read the paper and asked her reliably whether she had eaten. "I know you're busy," he would say on the phone, "but eat something." She had found this, for years, insufficient. She was no longer sure that was a fair assessment. He was in the back garden when she came through the house. He was doing what he always did in the early evening, checking things. The fence panel that had been loose since spring. The drain pipe he'd been meaning to re-secure. He moved with the slow deliberateness of a man whose body was asking him to slow down, but whose habits were stronger than his body's requests. He looked up when she came out. His face did the thing it always did when he saw her. A brief, unguarded brightness quickly settled back into its usual composure. He had never learned or never chosen to let that brightness stay visible for long. "You came," he said. "I said I would. You're thinner." "Dad, I'm observing." He set down the small wrench he'd been holding. "Your mother made jollof. I know, I could smell it from the driveway." He almost smiled. "Come inside." Dinner was the four of them: Raymond, Grace, Abina, and Kofi, who had driven over from across town with his wife Priya and their 2-year-old son Ellis, who ate rice with his hands and was permitted to do so because Grace had decided that some battles were not worth fighting with a 2-year-old. Raymond sat at the head of the table and said almost nothing. But Abina watched him the way she hadn't watched him in years, carefully, without the filter of her old frustrations, and she noticed things. He refilled her glass before she asked. He cut the meat on Ellis's plate into smaller pieces without being asked, leaning over quietly while the conversation continued around him. When Priya mentioned she'd been struggling with a difficult situation at work, Raymond listened with a complete, unhurried attention of someone who had nowhere else to be, and at the end said only, "That sounds hard. You're handling it well." 4 words of validation, plainly delivered, and Priya looked at him with the expression of someone who had received exactly what they needed. After dinner, he washed the dishes. Grace tried to take over, and he redirected her gently to the sitting room with Abina and the others. "Go, I'll finish." Abina stood in the kitchen doorway and watched him wash dishes in the quiet, unhurried way he did everything, and felt something she hadn't expected. Not pity, not guilt, not the complicated mixture of love and frustration she usually carried. Just clarity. She found him on the porch later that night. Kofi and Priya had gone home. Ellis had fallen asleep in his car seat. Grace had gone to bed early, the way she did when she was trusting Abina to handle something she couldn't. Raymond was sitting in the old wooden chair that had been on that porch for as long as Abina could remember. He had a cup of tea. He was looking at the street. The porch light was on, because it was always on. Abina sat in the chair beside him. They were quiet for a while. That had always been available to them. A silence that wasn't uncomfortable, just present. She had not appreciated it when she was younger. She appreciated it now. "Mum said you're tired," she said eventually. "Your mother worries." "She's usually right." He looked at his tea. "I'm fine, Abina." "Dad?" He was quiet. "I'm not asking you to fall apart," she said. "I'm asking you to go to the doctor. Once. Just to go." He didn't answer immediately. That was his way. He didn't refuse things quickly. He considered them, turned them over, found the honest shape of his resistance before he spoke. "I don't like making a fuss," he said finally. She looked at him. "About your health?" "About anything." He said it simply, without drama. "I never have. There are people with real problems. You go to the doctor when something is wrong. I'm just getting older." "That's not a reason not to go." "It's not a reason to make everyone worry either." Abina looked at the street. A car passed slowly. A dog barked somewhere and then stopped. "Do you know," she said carefully, "that I didn't know you came from a village until I was 19. I found a photograph and asked Mum, and she told me. You never mentioned it." He said nothing. "I didn't know about the courier job either, the labouring. I thought you'd always been an engineer." She paused. "I thought you'd always just been settled." "There was no point burdening you with it." "It's not a burden, Dad. It's your life. It's where I come from." He was still for a long time. The porch light hummed very faintly. Somewhere down the street, someone was putting bins out. "My father," Raymond said slowly, "was a proud man. Too proud. He struggled for years and told no one, asked for nothing, and it cost him his health and eventually his business. He taught me two things: work hard and ask for nothing." He paused. "I think I took the second lesson too far." Abina didn't say anything. She waited. "I am tired," he said quietly, as though the word had been waiting a long time to be let out. "Not frighteningly tired, but more than I should be. I know that." "Then let's go," she said. "Tomorrow morning, I'll come with you." He looked at her. In the porch light, his face was older than she was ready for, and also somehow more familiar, stripped of the composure he usually wore, closer to something she recognized as the man underneath the father. "You don't have to come with me," he said. "I know I don't have to." She looked at him steadily. "I want to." He nodded once, slowly, the way he agreed to things that mattered. "Okay," he said. The doctor's name was Dr. Mensah, a calm woman in her 50s who had the manner of someone who had heard everything and been surprised by very little, but remained, despite this, genuinely interested. She asked Raymond questions. He answered them honestly, more honestly, Abina sensed, than he might have if she hadn't been sitting beside him, as though her presence gave him permission to say the real things without them becoming a burden on the family, because the family was already in the room and already fine. The results would take a few days. Nothing alarming, Dr. Mensah said, but there were things worth looking at. Iron levels, thyroid, blood pressure that had been quietly elevated for probably longer than he'd admitted. Manageable things, addressable things. In the car on the way home, Raymond sat in the passenger seat and looked out the window. "That wasn't so bad," Abina said. "No," he admitted. "Will you come back for the follow-up?" Yes." She nodded and drove. After a moment he said, without looking away from the window, "Thank you for coming this weekend." "Of course. I mean, Not just for this, for coming. You didn't have to. She glanced at him. He was still looking out the window. His hands were folded in his lap with a quiet stillness she had watched her whole life without understanding. The stillness of a man who had carried a great deal without putting it down, and had never thought to ask for help carrying it. "Dad," she said, "you mowed Mrs. Adiemi's lawn for 3 years after her husband died. Every fortnight. I only found out because she told me at the Christmas market 2 years ago. She cried when she talked about it." He said nothing. "You drove Kofi to hospital at 2 in the morning when you broke his wrist, and you never mentioned it was the same night your work deadline was the next morning. Mum told me that." Still nothing. "You put my name on the school reading program waiting list before I was born because you'd heard there was a long queue and you wanted to make sure I had access to books." She paused. "I only found out because I found the letter in a box when I was helping Mum clear the spare room." He turned to look at her then, not defensively, just looking. "You never told us any of it," she said. "You just did it, all of it, for years, without telling anyone." She kept her eyes on the road. "That's not nothing, Dad. That's everything." The silence that followed was different from the others, fuller. She didn't try to fill it. Eventually he said, very quietly, "I didn't think it needed saying." "It doesn't," she said, "but I wanted you to know that I see it, that I've always seen it, even when I didn't know how to say so." She heard him, slow and long, like something released. She drove the rest of the way home without speaking. That afternoon, he sat in his garden chair while she made tea. She brought 2 cups out and sat beside him. The garden was quiet. The lawn was neat. The fence panel he had fixed that morning was straight and secure in a way it hadn't been for months. Ellis had come back with Kofi and Priya for lunch, and he had spent 30 minutes teaching the 2-year-old how to water the tomato plants, guiding his small hands on the watering can with the infinite patience of a man who understood that some things couldn't be rushed. Abina had watched from the kitchen window. She thought about what it meant to love someone the way her father loved, not loudly, not demonstratively, but with every mowed lawn and every filled glass and every 2 a.m. drive and every name on every waiting list. A love that didn't ask to be seen, that just kept showing up, season after season, in the small and necessary things. She thought about all the years she had wanted him to be different, more open, more expressive, more like the fathers in films who gave speeches and said the thing at the right moment. She thought about how long it had taken her to understand that he had been saying the thing all along, in every quiet act she hadn't thought to look at. She was looking now. She stayed the whole week. They didn't do anything remarkable. She helped Grace sort the spare room. She drove Raymond to his follow-up appointment on Wednesday. Iron deficient, blood pressure medication adjusted, Nothing serious, everything manageable. She cooked dinner on Thursday because Grace's back was aching, and Raymond tried to take over, and she redirected him to his chair the same way he had redirected Grace. And he accepted this with a look that was as close to amusement as he usually got. On her last evening, she found him on the porch again. Same chair, same tea, same porch light. She sat beside him. "I'm going to come more often," she said, not apologetically, just as a fact. "You have your life," he said. "You're part of my life." She looked at him. "The most important part. I think I forgot that for a while. I don't want to forget it again." He looked at his tea, then at the street, then briefly at her. "You're a good daughter, Abina," he said. It was, from Raymond Ose, a great deal. She felt it land the way it was intended, fully, without qualification. "I learned from a good father," she said. He said nothing, but she saw it, the brightness in his face, the one he never quite let stay. This time, it stayed a little longer before settling. It was enough. It was more than enough. She drove back to the city on Sunday morning. The light was early and clear, and the road was quiet. She had a bag in the boot, a container of leftover jollof on the passenger seat, and the feeling she'd arrived with, the unnamed one, was gone. In its place was something simpler and more solid. Gratitude, maybe. The real kind. The kind that comes not from receiving something new, but from finally seeing what had always been there. She thought about her father watching the street from the porch, about the porch light that was always on. She had asked him once, years ago, why he always left it on. "In case someone needs to find their way," he'd said, simply, as though it were obvious. She hadn't understood it then. She understood it now. She drove toward the city with the windows down and the morning coming in, and thought, "I will be that for someone. I will be the light that stays on. I will do the quiet things and not need them noticed. I will love the way he loves, steadily, humbly, without asking the world to applaud it." That was the inheritance he had left her. Not in a speech, not in a letter. In a mowed lawn, a filled glass, a name on a waiting list before she was born. In 22 years of a porch light, faithfully on. The end. And that's where we leave Abina, driving back to the city with something she didn't have when she arrived. Not answers, not resolution, just sight, the ability to see what had always been there. I want to ask you something before you go. Think of someone in your life who loves quietly, who shows up without announcing it, who does the small things so consistently you've stopped noticing them. Tell them, this week. Just tell them you see it. It doesn't have to be a big moment. It just has to be true. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for a new story every week. Take care of the people around you. I'll see you in the next one.